Hello. I would like to introduce Mr. Jeremy Morse. Jeremy is the CEO of Mental Health America in Palm Beach County and is one of our flawless friends and a fellow mental health advocate. Jeremy works with Mental Health America in Palm Beach County. Their chapter, Mental Health America, has more than 200 affiliates across the United States. The goal of Mental Health America is to create a supportive culture where people with mental health conditions can live openly and feel valued. This falls right in line with our flawless foundation mission of mental health advocacy, since Mental Health America connects people with care and support, builds awareness, and works with mental health public priority advocacy. Now, Jeremy, to start off, I'd like to ask, how did you really get into working with Mental Health America, and what is your background that led into this?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. I I started in the nonprofit world doing fundraising. I actually started with the American Cancer Society and was a professional fundraiser with them for many years. And I think that that was a good way for me to get introduced to the nonprofit sector because when you're a fundraiser, you can't force people to give you money. You can't demand that they give you money. You don't really have the power to do that. It's really a position of powerlessness that you're approaching folks and asking them to contribute to your cause. And so what I learned was that you have to really lead with the mission. You've got to find out what really motivates people to want to give or to act or to do things and focus on that motivation. And if you can do that, then people are always going to be generous if you can make solid connections to what they really care about. And so I found that that has really, helped me in my work in nonprofit leadership, because you can't force people to do things. You've got to really appeal to appeal to what they really care about and the causes that they want to support. And so that's how I got involved in the nonprofit sector, and it's really helped me at Mental Health America of Palm Beach County.
That is great. I'm so glad to hear that. What is your really the most rewarding or your favorite part of working at Mental Health America or working with a community-based nonprofit such as MHA?
Well, I mean, you mentioned our mission statement, which is to create a supportive community. We want people who are living with mental health conditions to live openly, to be accepted. And so we focus on creating communities where that can happen. And I think the most rewarding thing for me is that when you create that kind of community, you find that you're a part of it, that you're accepted unconditionally, that people look just beyond the surface and look to deep down inside to find the real you and love and care for that person like you do for them. And so really, I think for me, creating that kind of community helps me feel welcomed, helps me feel understood, and I love the relationships that we build together, and feeling a part of that.
That's great to hear. Relationships are really an important part of establishing this community and having community-based organizations like this. Many people in our community have social determinants of health that contribute to their mental health challenges. Do you find that this is the experience that you have with the population that you work with in Palm Beach County, Florida? And can you talk about the protective factors that people's health or people's mental health really contributes in this way?
Sure. Yeah, I think that social determinants of health impact everyone. I've heard that a person's zip code is actually more important than their genetic code when it comes to what types of health issues they're going to have as adults. And mental health is a part of overall health. Um, when I think about social determinants of health related to mental health, I really think more about our belief systems because all of us have belief systems. It helps our belief systems help us make sense of the world around us. And so, if as a child you have experienced trauma, if the world is a scary and uncertain place for you, then your belief systems are going to be shaped by those experiences. And as an adult, you're going to approach the world in the same way. So you're likely to have high levels of anxiety. You're likely to experience depression and other health issues. And so, for me, when we think about protective factors, we think about, well, what resources are out there that are going to help shape those belief systems in a way that can impact a person positively. So, in other words, if I think that the world is a scary and dangerous place, and then I experience someone who accepts me unconditionally and loves me and welcomes me into a sense of community, then that creates a certain kind of cognitive dissonance, and I've got it challenges my belief systems. And so 9 times out of 10, when that first happens, people are going to retreat into their belief systems, and they're not going to trust the new reality. But through time and through persistence, those belief systems can get challenged and can get reshaped. And the brain is an amazing thing. We think that it is this fixed thing that never changes, but it really isn't. There's this concept of neuroplasticity of our brains, and what that means is it's constantly changing, it's constantly evaluating and being shaped by our environments. So if we can create a healthy environment for folks, then their minds, their belief systems can change, and they can flourish. And I think that protective factors, really it's a technical term, but I think that really it really is about positive relationships with people, is protective factors. And if you're a child and you've experienced trauma, if you just have one adult who provides stability for your life, then that can become a protective factor for you that can last a lifetime. So I think that building community and relationships and challenging these ingrained belief systems helps to really shape mental health in a positive way.
That's great to hear. And kind of expanding upon the social determinants of health, how do you
Mhm.
see that clothing really fits into that, and different shoes, such as it was great to meet you the other day and work with my nonprofit Shoes to You and providing shoes and socks to Mental Health America of Palm Beach County. Can you walk us through something as simple as shoes or clothing that contributes to something like that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for those of us who are kind of at the top of the socioeconomic spectrum, clothing and shoes really is about fashion, and it's about projecting a sense of identity out there of, well, this is the kind of person I am. These are the kind of clothes I wear. But for many people, clothes is about survival. And what we're realizing is that we can't wait until somebody is stably housed before we address their mental health needs. And all of us have seen homeless individuals who appear to have serious mental health issues. And so we want to work with those folks while they're still living on the streets, so that when they do, when they are able to access stable housing, they're going to have much better outcomes. And so when you ask people who are living on the streets, what's the number one thing that they want, besides food and money, it's shoes and socks. As a matter of fact, for those of us who sometimes struggle with, what do I do when I see someone who's living on the streets, and they're asking for money, or they're asking for food, and um, one thing that you can do, if you're in your car or whatever, is keep a steady supply of socks in your car, and just hand some socks to that person, because I guarantee you that they need a fresh pair of socks. They probably need a fresh pair of shoes, and that's because they spend the whole day walking around and in the elements. And so that means if you've got a shoe that has holes in it and it's pouring rain, then your socks are going to get soaking wet, and your feet are going to hurt. Those are basic things that we take for granted. So we appreciate, you gave us a great donation of many pairs of shoes and socks, and that's gonna really impact the people's lives who are living on the streets, who really it's really about basic needs. It's not anything else but that.
Well, it was great to work with you, and it really is, so many people take shoes and socks and different items of clothing for granted, and it really is something that is such a basic yet important need for public health, as well as health in general, and just really getting around a community, whether it's working, going to school, or just going into a store or walking on the streets. But in terms of the mental health, if you had a focused approach for mental health advocacy and awareness in one category, where would you target that, and what would you really change?
Yeah, I think that um, we're inundated with ideas and thoughts and opinions. I think that when we look at social media, what we see is a lot of people talking and a lot of people sharing their opinions, and we see a lot of thought leadership, and thought leadership is important. We need to have well thought out ideas and plans, and that's an important piece of that. But what I'd like to see in the mental health space, especially, is less thought leadership and more action. And what I mean by that is that public education around mental health is super important, and advocacy around mental health is super important as well. But I think that we have a lot of ideas out there. We've got a lot of the right ideas out there, and um, I think that for the most part, you can never do enough public education, but I think that many people are pretty educated about mental health, and so the question is, well, what are we doing about those things? And our actions and our actions in the mental health sphere, whether it's creating communities where people who are living with mental health conditions are accepted, creating opportunities for people to get mental health treatment. These types of actions help the overall cause of public education advocacy, because when people understand that people with mental health conditions can live healthy, amazing, fruitful, full lives where they reach their full potential in recovery, then that helps demystify mental illness. It helps take the fear out of mental illness. When you know that your next door neighbor who has a family and has a great job and a great career and is happy is living with mental illness, that challenges your preconceptions about what mental illness can do to a person, that it's a death sentence, that there's no help for it. And so I think that more action, more support for people who are living with mental health conditions, more care, so that as they live out their lives in recovery, they can challenge these myths about mental illness, and help overcome people's fear about that. I mentioned the American Cancer Society, and the Mental Health Association was founded in the early 1900s, right around the time that the American Cancer Society was founded as well. And they both had really similar missions. That was to educate the public. The American Cancer Society was actually to educate doctors on the signs and symptoms of cancer, because doctors were not picking up on those signs. What they were both trying to address, though, was the incredible fear and stigma around these issues. In the 1900s, if you were diagnosed with cancer, it was a certain death sentence. And if you were diagnosed with a mental illness, you were locked up in an institution. You were most likely chained and kept from the public. And so both of these movements were to challenge stigma. When you fast forward 100 and some years, what you realize is that we've made much more progress in cancer. Many of us know cancer survivors. On any given weekend, you can see an event where people are walking with T-shirts, supporting breast cancer survivors or others. And so we've made a lot more progress with cancer than we have with mental illness. And a lot of the fear and stigma related to cancer is no longer a reality. We want to make the same kind of progress with mental health conditions. And a lot of that has to do with research, with brain health, with brain research, and demystifying the stigma related to mental illness. If we can have people who say, hey, you know what, I'm living with mental illness, and I'm happy, I'm living a full life, I wouldn't change a thing, and people can see that, then we'll make a lot of progress in getting rid of stigma.
Well, thank you so much for that answer. And I think that really would help a lot of people in trying to see the best way to address mental health, as well as if they want to really get into kind of the aspects of what should I do if I want to help out. Really, what are the steps and what are the ways that we can address this and really make a meaningful impact? Now we have a few questions that are kind of our 5 flawless questions that we've really started to adapt with COVID-19 and just everything really going around right now in the world. And our first question is, what has been one of the most challenging aspects of the COVID-19 crisis? And then kind of to the opposite of that, has there been a gift or a silver lining that has come with that, and that you've been able to see through the different aspects that we've had to go through this year?
Sure. Yeah, I think that the biggest issue for me with the COVID-19 crisis has been having to make really big decisions with so much uncertainty still out there. So, we make decisions based on the information we have, but when the information is changing from day to day, almost from minute to minute, and you're forced to adapt and to change and to make decisions related to your organization and even your personal life with so much changing, that has been very, very difficult. And it points to the need to really be flexible, to have a flexibility, to say, okay, as of right now, this is what we're going to do. But I know that maybe in a few days or even in a week, things could change. As an example of that, about a month ago, we decided that we were going to open up our community support centers on July 6th. And at that time, there was a decrease in the number of incidents of COVID-19 and the number of deaths. And so we said, okay, well, we're going to open up on July 6th, and we're going to put the different kind of precautions that we need to put in place, so that we can have some in-person programming. Well, now, especially in Florida and in Palm Beach County, we've had this huge surge. And so now we've got to say, okay, well, are we still going to open? And we've decided we are, but we're going to open with limited hours. So we're going to open on July 6th from 9 to 12, and we're going to see how things go. We're going to put the different kinds of health precautions in place, and see how things go. But that may change. And so flexibility has been really important during this time, and it's been very challenging. I think the silver lining with COVID for me is that it's created more space for critical reflection. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of kind of mindless activities in our schedules. We run from meeting to meeting and spend most of the day just answering emails and things like that. And so having more time has caused us to more critically reflect on those types of activities and what value they really have, and then refocused our attention on what are the core activities that help advance our mission. And so we've been able to take a look at our programming, take a look at everything that we're doing and say, all right, how does this really advance our mission? And so I think that organizationally as well as personally, it's helped us to become more focused, and more critically reflective on the kinds of activities in which we engage.
Uh, that's definitely a wonderful thing to think about, especially your point about trying to be flexible and just really flexibility in so much uncertainty that's going on right now. In
Right.
terms of you personally, how have you been taking care of your own mental health? And what are some techniques or things that you've really adapted that are new or that you've done for a while that you find that are useful?
Well, mostly I've been focusing on nutrition and exercise. The I my diet and my nutrition for most of my life has been really bad. Yeah, I like to eat junk food. I like to eat fast food. I like to, a bag of Doritos. It's just it's like, I start eating that stuff and I can't stop. And so what I've realized, and I realized this in the first couple of weeks, because I had so much time on my hands, is that my diet was so poor, I had to make some adjustments. And so what I've been doing is, I've got a nutritional shake that I drink, in the morning, and I drink another shake in the afternoon. And now I've tried to be more reasonable in what I eat for my evening meal. I've been, exercising. I've been running and doing exercise, every day, at least 30 minutes. But the biggest adjustment, may be surprising to some, is I've started to replace, the alcohol that I used to drink with tea. So just about every day, I'm in my 50s, and so this happens with a lot of folks in their 50s. Every day when I would get home, maybe 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, I'd have a drink. I would have, I love different kinds of whiskey, so I would maybe have a shot of whiskey or something like that. And what I realized was I was doing that now every day. So every day at the same time, I was drinking whiskey. And, while I never thought, well, I've got an alcohol problem, I thought, well, this really can't be good for me to drink alcohol every single day of my life. And but what I realized was I was really kind of craving for some downtime. I was craving to, some time for I could relax. And so I replaced that alcohol with, tea, with hot tea. And I went out and I got a bunch of different kinds of varieties of tea. And so now I look forward to drinking tea, at 6 o'clock at night or whatever. I've got decaffeinated as well as caffeinated if I feel like I just need a little boost. And, that's made a huge difference. We don't realize how much alcohol can impact, our mental health, but it really does. Alcohol is a depressant. And so if we're prone to depression and we're drinking alcohol, we're really making the situation worse. So I think that my nutrition has gotten better. I'm definitely more regular in my habits of exercise, but the biggest change has been eliminating the alcohol.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. That's a great kind of transition that when we're reflecting to see what changes we can make during COVID-19, we can really adapt that into our schedule. And in terms of your schedule, do you have a certain morning routine or a certain routine that you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah. Years ago we adopted a greyhound, and he's now, 13 years old. We adopted him when he just turned 4, and so in the morning, I take his name is ET, and I take him for a walk. And when I get back, I have coffee, and I spend a half hour a day with news and social media and things like that. I've actually got a limit set on my phone, that cuts it off after a half an hour, because I find that I tend to, if it's available to me, I'll lift up my phone and I'll see what's going on in the news, or I'll look at social media and kind of get sucked into that. So I've limited myself, using the app on my phone. I will, drink my shake in the morning, and I'll go for a run. And those are the things that I do to get my days, off on the right path, and to get me thinking, get my mind clear. I can tell you that I've always struggled with waking up in the morning and getting getting the day started. I always used to look at the day as being kind of, with a lot of dread, like, oh, what's going to happen today, or what do I have to do today, and things like that. But having a regular routine, waking up at the same time in the morning, and following that routine helps to short circuit that dread and gets me going in the right direction. And then once I have that run, then I feel like, wow, I feel, like I've really accomplished a lot, and it's still early. And so I look more forward to taking on the whatever adventures and opportunities face me in that day.
Exactly. I think it's so important, really, as you were saying, to have some sort of, even if it's a small exercise or activity, going on a run in the morning and having your shake right after, just really
Yeah,
accomplishing something kind of right off the bat when you get up is just really so important. So you don't just kind of jump right into whatever you need to get done that day. You have something that's, oh, I already accomplished this. I'm
right.
already getting the ball rolling for my routine and really what I need to do today.
Yeah,
And
it makes you feel like you're being proactive. Makes you feel like, wow, I've really done something, instead of just reacting, the whole day to whatever happens. And that's a that's an important that's an important psychological benefit to exercise, especially first thing in the morning, and to routines. Making sure that we have routines.
especially right now during kind of
Yeah,
such an uncertain time where you have to really adapt and, as you were saying, be so flexible with what's going on.
right.
Now, here at Flawless, we believe in seeing the light and goodness in each person, basically the perfection in each person. What do you see as the perfection of every person as meaning to you, or what is this perfection that you see in people that you work with and that you interact with on a daily basis?
Well, I think that many of us, we live our lives on such a surface level. We look at just outward appearance. We judge things basically by what we see on the outside. And when I think of flaws, I think, that's generally what we do. We definitely, we have this bias where, what our eyes tell us, that's the truth. And somebody might say something, and whatever they say, we instantly judge that, or we look for the flaws in what they've said, instead of going deeper and trying to really understand, well, what was behind what was said. Looking at people and trying to go deeper to say, okay, I know what my eyes are telling me, but what's the real truth? What's the real truth of that person? I think that you have to go deeper in order to discover those things. It requires effort. It requires time. It requires really building a relationship with that person, and then that's where you really start to understand that having this uh, basic attitude of unconditional acceptance toward people really help you. It really helps you discover what's at the heart of an individual. And that's a beautiful thing when you can break through the surface and you can go deeper and you can really understand another human being. That's really what it means to be flawless, to me.
Well, that's a wonderful explanation of really going deeper into that. And that flawlessness really kind of leads to our next and really final question, which is, what does a flawless world look like and mean to you?
Well, when we spend a lot of time with our members and our board at Mental Health America Palm Beach County, trying to come up with a mission statement that really defines who we are and what makes us special and unique. And you said it at the beginning of the interview. and it's to create it's to create a community, community of acceptance, where people who are living with mental illness, with mental health conditions, they're valued, that they live openly. I think that one of the biases that we have related to people who are living with mental illness is that they're fragile, that they need care, that they need constant support. And while it's true that people who are living with mental illness need support, what you would discover if you get to know someone is that they're incredibly strong, that they're incredibly resilient, and that we can learn from their resilience, that it can make us better human beings to learn from that resilience. Many of us during COVID-19 have experienced a taste of what it's like to have a mental health condition. So whether we realize it or not, a lot of us experience, mild to moderate symptoms of anxiety and depression every day. And so we learn to live with that, and we think that that's just a normal part of human life. But COVID-19 has exacerbated that for many of us. And so we've started to see people move from mild to moderate to severe. And that's just a result of the pandemic, and it's a result of what's happening in our world. And people will say, wow, I know what it's like to really feel, you know, severe anxiety. Well, that's a wonderful opportunity for us then to say, wow, what is it like for someone who's living with severe anxiety every day, who the thought of going outside or going to a grocery store or taking their kids to McDonald's or something like that, it provokes that same kind of feeling that we're experiencing right now. And it's kind of a window into the everyday life of someone who's living with a severe mental illness. And so to understand that these folks are doing that, and they're still they're living in recovery, they're getting out to the grocery store, they're taking their kids to McDonald's, they're doing these everyday activities while still living with those feelings, helps us to understand and get a glimpse at what kind of strength and resilience resides in these folks. And it's a wonderful learning experience for those of us who don't live with those things. And it helps us to learn and grow and to become better human beings.
That's a wonderful point, to really see the lived experience in other people's shoes and what they go through so much and really on a day-to-day basis. And we might have it for a small period of time or during COVID-19. Some people that normally don't have that, but you get to really have lived experience of what so many people live with so often.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy. It was great to talk with you today. And
Thank you, Joseph.
yes, thank you. And make sure to follow Jeremy's organization, Mental Health America of Palm Beach County, on social media, which we'll have tagged within this video. And thank you so much for all of the continued work that you do with us at the Flawless Foundation, and all of the work that you do to support your community in Palm Beach County, Florida, and all that you do.
Great. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me today. I enjoyed speaking with you.